vet him before.
Did I turn it off or did I turn it on?
So they're going to vet him before the community on the 12th.
Yeah.
But it's the
Good to know.
Okay,
Good stuff.
ready on the left, ready on the right? Okay, I've got everybody's attention. I'll call the meeting to order. This is the Calaveras Council of Governments meeting for Wednesday, August 6th. We're in the Board of Supervisors chambers at Government Center. I would ask you all to rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, first item on our agenda, or items, is 1 and 2 on the consent agenda, generally considered to be routine and non-controversial, and are generally voted on in one motion by the board, unless any member of the board, the public, or staff want to pull an item from consent prior to the vote. Does any member of the board want to pull an item from consent? Any member from staff or the public want to pull an item from consent prior to discussion and vote? Yes, Gary.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to have item 1, the minutes, and item 2C pulled, please.
1 and 2C.
Please.
Okay. Since those are both items that we need to approve independently, I will then move to item number 1, approval of the minutes. Gary, what would your comment be on that one? Just state your name for the record, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Gary Caldwell, Valley Springs. On item 1, I'm interested in 6A in the minutes. It says in the minutes that there's a draft newsletter, Wagon Trail Project will be updated and soon released. And the question I have is, has it been released?
I see Mr. Miller shaking his head in the affirmative. He has his hands on it, so it has been released.
It has been
It
released?
has been released. He has it.
Thank you. And on 6B,
Let me vote on that. Hold on. Is there any other discussion on this item?
Before we move on, I do see on 6A that we say a public open house will be held in April 2015. Is that 2015 next year, April? Okay,
You're okay with that?
yes.
Any other questions or comments or corrections, deletions from the minutes? Again?
I still have another 2 items on the minutes.
Oh, I thought you moved to 2C. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
6B, it says in the red print at the bottom of 6B, Councilmember Ponte requested more information on when the website will be updated with the Wagon Trail project information. I'm wondering, has that been updated?
Don't know that.
Yeah, you know what, I do believe that we did consult Matt Satow, the project manager, that he did provide a written response, and Public Works is confirming that that information has been updated.
The website has been updated.
That's what I'm understanding. I myself have not seen that information, but I do know that we did verify with Matt Satow, and correspondence between the project manager and Public Works was underway as of this request.
Okay, and the next one, and last one, Mr. Chairman, on the minutes. 7C, it says that some of the shelter funds are Cal OES funds set to expire September 30th, which is obviously not very far away. Staff does not plan to file for an extension at this time. Can I assume that that will be finished on time then, so there's no reversion of monies?
That's our assumption.
I believe that that was the information that we had at the time of this meeting. I believe there may be an update where the Public Works Department is now considering an extension for those funds. But this was the information that we had available at our meeting in June.
So
I believe there will be
an extension request filed.
Correct.
And which means, I assume, it will not be finished on time.
Correct.
Otherwise, you wouldn't need an extension.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Did you want me to stay up here, Mr. Chairman? I had to...
Let me just call for the vote real quick,
Okay.
and then we'll move on to item 2C.
All right.
The chair is open to a motion on the minutes from June 14th, 2014 regular board meeting.
So moved.
Can I say something on that?
Sure.
It says there that I was absent. I wasn't absent for the whole meeting. I was here for the first part of the meeting.
I think it says on item 10, that's when you left the meeting.
So should we reflect that appropriately?
I think it is reflected in here.
Well, it does show he's absent up on top, so I was actually going to question that. We also, Wes Colm also pointed out that John Gomes is, I guess he had an alter ego here because he was listed twice.
Okay.
So
So
let's
we will
take
correct
John
that.
off of one.
He didn't get 2 votes that night, though.
Don't think he did.
They were all for the city though, so.
Right.
There we go.
Okay, with those corrections, the chair is open to a motion. I have a motion by Councilmember Ponte,
Second.
second by Councilmember Edson. I'll call for the vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, none noted. That's a 5-1 vote of the board with Councilmember Gomes absent for at least this item and probably the remainder of the meeting. So we didn't have our alternate this evening. She was contacted.
Kate was not available this evening, and John was not able to attend.
Okay. Item 2C, Gary, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Looking at 2C, or did I say that right? 2C?
You said 2C, and that's what we...
And that's a letter from Mr. Miller regarding the Highway 1226 project, and it talks about a shortfall of $400,000. You know, one of the reasons this was approved, this stop sign project was approved, was that it was supposedly cheaper than a signal and or a roundabout. And now, there's apparently the estimate done by the county is now $400,000 out of whack. Am I reading that correctly? Or else they wouldn't need $400,000, right?
Yeah. Let me just see if Public Works wants to respond to that. Mike, you want to respond to that, or Mr. Packinger?
That's correct. There was a shortfall estimated to be $400,000. There was underground fuel tanks that had to be relocated. There were buildings in the right-of-way that during the right-of-way negotiations we agreed to move. We submitted to Caltrans for the change in the amounts. They reviewed our submitted documents and gave us the $400,000.
That's what I thought I saw in the letters. It's actually, you do have the money. It was given to you.
That's correct. And as far as the cost as compared to the other two projects, I do remember when I was here in 2007, I thought at that time we had completely killed the idea of a roundabout because of the size necessary in that intersection. And I wasn't here when they made the estimates on the signals.
Okay, thank you. Anything else on this item, Gary?
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, this is information only. These were letters that were sent through correspondence, so there's no action by the board taken on these items. So I will move on to the regular agenda. First item is number 3, public comment. 5 minutes per person will be allotted for any person that wants to address the board on an item that's not already scheduled for discussion by the board and a vote, a possible vote. So this is the time for the public to step forward if you want to address the board on any non-agendized item. I see none, so I'll move on then to item number 4. First item up is the county report. Looks like we have item number A, Wagon Trail Quarterly Information Report. Either Mr. Miller
We're going to
or Ms.
swap
Mullins.
funds tonight.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to give Deborah Mullen from Public Works, I'm going to give an update on the Arnold Rim Trail Cedar Center Bikeway Connection. That's a project that is in progress now. It's about halfway done. It's at a point where it's waiting for the plant to be able to supply the asphalt for the paved bikeway. And I have some pictures to share. Okay. The top 2 pictures are of the encroachment at Pine Drive, and it shows the trail, the first picture of the trail going up with the aggregate base on it and the culvert being installed at Pine Drive. And then the bottom left picture is the cul-de-sac of Oak Circle, that's where there's going to be a little parking area for the trailhead at Oak Circle. And the bottom right picture is the graded native surface trail. And it has some of the chips that were stockpiled after the tree removal last fall. So that should be pretty nice, and there'll be some revegetation going on there. So, any questions about that project?
Okay, very good, Deborah. Questions or comments? Thank you.
And with the Chair's permission, I'll just go ahead and do the transit report while I'm up here, and then Mr. Miller can do the wagon trail and the rest of the county report. So we have completed a bus shelter. Yes. It's on Blagan Road in front of the library, and I have some pictures. I don't know that I printed enough. But this installation was done by the county road crew. And we think they did a really nice job, and it looks really good right there at the library with the flag above it. So where we are now is where staff is working on completing the plans and specifications that were started by a consultant. We expect to have them ready for submittal to Caltrans for the encroachment permits, because the rest of the shelter, the bus stop improvement projects are all on state highway. So, and then we'll be bringing the plans and specs to the Board of Supervisors for approval prior to letting it out to bid.
Deborah, congratulations on doing this. This bus stop shelter has been one of the projects that we've had on our CIP for a number of years, and I think Deborah's been on board since June, and so in less than 3 months, we have the
I
delivery of the
needled our
shelter
crew relentlessly.
project. So congratulations to Deborah and the Public Works Department. It's good to see these up.
So we are anxious to get all the rest of them up as well, and it's a priority. Funding for it is has 3 sources: CalOES, PTMISEA, and FTA 5317 New Freedom Grant Funds. So the CalOES, yes, to Mr. Caldwell, we are applying for an extension, and we've been given to understand that that will be granted. And for the FTA 5317 funds, those were also almost gone. The time was almost up on that, but they have acquiesced to our request to extend that. We have another 9 months until June 30th of 2015, and so that is $112,200. And be happy to answer any questions more about the shelter project or bus stop improvement projects, or the funding sources that support them.
Deborah, can you remind me how many more bus shelters are in the works?
There are 4 more shelters and 2 benches. The shelters are 3 in San Andreas on 49, post office, treat store, and the credit union. And then 2 benches in Murphy's, and I'm drawing a blank on the 4th shelter.
Isn't it down by Vista Largo somewhere?
Oh, yes, we're going to, thank you. We've been talking to the owner of the shopping center at Vista Del Lago and State Route 26 there, and hope to put it in the parking lot.
Great.
Good.
The bus stop currently is in that parking lot, and we're going to have the shelter far closer to the corner, but off the highway.
Okay, we've morphed over into
I
item
just
5.
wanna-
This is the transit report. So yeah, questions or
No,
comments?
I
Go
just
ahead,
wanted
Joe.
to comment, Deborah, and thank you for the pictures.
I love pictures.
That's very helpful.
Well, I hope you go up and take the bus and get off and go read a book, sit in the shelter, yeah,
Thank you for the
and
pictures.
go for a hike,
anyway.
yeah.
Does it have cell phone coverage there?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, darn. I guess I won't be going there too often then. But hey, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I think you've just done a fabulous job for the short time you've been in there, and the results are here, so
Thank you.
Thank you. Very good.
I think I have some, the quarterly reports. They are not complete. We're working on the data, and I'm hoping to have both the third and fourth quarter reports to you for the next meeting.
Okay. All right, are there any questions on item 5A through D from
Excuse me,
the
Mr.
board
Chair,
or the public? Yes.
before you leave item 4, because I
We're
want
not going, we're going back to 4. We kind of
We'll
morphed
go
into
for it.
5. I don't want to do
to, I
that.
thought we were on 4A.
No, we're on 5A through D.
Okay.
Go ahead. Mr. Caldwell. Any questions on 5A through D?
5C, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Thank you, Gary Caldwell, Valley Springs. I see there's a letter here from Mr. Miller to Caltrans, and in the second paragraph it says, "We agree that the 5-year term for this project should have been sufficient." This is a project that was approved in fiscal 07-08. It's primarily bus shelters.
Right.
We used to buy prefab bus shelters. You buy them prefab, you pour a slab of concrete, you got anchor bolts, you go out and bolt them down. I don't know why it takes over 5 years. Obviously, even though, notwithstanding that Mr. Miller says it should have been sufficient, 5 years should have been sufficient, he's asking for another 9 months on this. I mean, eventually, enough is enough. Get the project done. You know, I'm beating the drum about project delivery.
Project delivery, right.
Thank you.
Gary. I think they heard it loud and clear. Any other questions or comments on the transit report, items 5A through D inclusive?
I'd like to make a comment.
Sure.
So I think we identified the backlog a couple of meetings ago for the Public Works team. And we also noted at that time there's going to be a catch-up period. And so I believe that they are working really hard to do that. It was, I think, we'll never know all of the intricacies of it, but I'm pretty sure there was quite a bit of work to catch up. And they're starting it. They're doing it now. When they get on track, they'll be good. But it takes a while to get there. And so, I mean, Deborah's been on this, what, 2 months, 3 months? Maybe?
2 months.
And you can see the results just in that short amount of time.
She's inherited a mess. That's the
Okay,
problem.
so we all agree with
Yeah.
that. We all agree with that. I'm just saying it doesn't happen with the snap of the fingers. There's quite a bit more to it. And they're straightening it out. It's getting there. I'm pretty confident in this team. I think they'll do very well.
All right, very good. Any other comments on items 5A through D? Okay, then let's move on. This is informational only. Let's move back to item 4A, the Wagon Trail Quarterly Report. Mr. Miller.
Thank you. I'd like to take a moment just to bang that drum myself. And the short time period that the Public Works Department has been going through a transition, we've caught up on more than 5 years' worth of backlog on bus purchases. We have some still in process. We inherited a bus shelter project that's been handled by 4 or 5 people. The last one was a consultant. We're in a pre-legal dispute with the plans and specifications. Bus stops years ago were very easy to install. I've installed them in other agencies. Today you have ADA requirements. You have to find the right locations. You have to set the grades correctly. And yes, this is a project that was funded a long time ago. We acknowledged that when we went forward with Caltrans, and it's simply because of the effort of people in transit and Public Works that we've been successful in getting cooperation. John Gebney, we've thanked at Caltrans. We have what I would consider people that want us to be successful now. And with that, we're being successful. We had our crews pulled together, and they put this bus stop in less than a week from start to finish. That's magnificent effort by the department, not just the transit staff, but the department. We're having these successes every day, and we hope they can continue under your next Director of Public Works. Now I'll give you my transit report. We do have a wagon trail newsletter. I have copies. I have an extra copy I'll give Mr. Caldwell. It's an update, and the website has also been updated, and on the website there should be project exhibits as well. The schedule now for the fall, the NEPA and CEQA will be done in fall 2014. The draft environmental document, fall 2014. Circulate the draft, early 2015. Open hearing and, public hearing and open house, early 2015. Right now, this project is about 4 months ahead of schedule on the environmental aspect from the original schedule. So I'll give you these, and I'll also remind you that you can go to the website. The website is noted on here, and it's easy enough to disseminate the information that way. Okay, the balance of the county report is an update on 12/26. We will be going back to our Board of Supervisors on the September 9th meeting for a closed session for final negotiations on 2 more parcels that we are acquiring as part of the right-of-way. As you know, we have to have closed sessions. These are not public discussions that can take place about offers and counteroffers. Once we go to the board, we hopefully will come out of that meeting successful to move forward, and we have, I believe, 1 or 2 more properties, and we'll be done. If you live in that area or you travel through Valley Springs, you'll see that they were successful in moving the Tri-Dam Realty building, and there's been a foundation poured under it.
Does that equipment that's parked down there by the car wash have anything to do with the corner?
I'm sorry, I didn't get the first part.
There's some heavy equipment down by the car wash. Is it staged for a particular reason?
I haven't seen it. I was down there last week, I didn't notice it. I'll drive through there Thursday afternoon.
I was there today.
Other than the wagon trail update on the environmental and the 12/26, that's all I have on my official report, but I'd like to make some few additional comments. The Public Works staff saw a preliminary report, forthcoming report, as part of the Transit Maintenance and Evaluation. It was originally titled the Cost Structure Evaluation Board Workshop, and we had significant concerns. It was a...
None of us have seen that report yet.
I understand that.
So do you still want to comment on it now?
It's been redacted, and what I'm here to do tonight is to tell you that from what we saw, it was, I think it would be safe to say, highly critical. This is initially portrayed as a tool for us to improve parts of transit. At the meeting, the night this was approved for consultant approval, I asked for an apples-to-apples comparison. One example, just one example, was on the wages paid to the drivers at paratransit as compared to peer agencies. I submitted through Melissa to Cliff Chambers a breakdown of a website that showed what paratransit pays as an average in their agencies and what benefits. In the report that I saw, and there is a new report that was distributed today for circulation, and I don't know
So wait a second, I'm confused. You're talking way over my head.
Okay.
You're talking about a draft report that was circulated where?
It was circulated internally between the COG and Public Works.
Okay, well, if it's circulated internally and none of us have seen it, I don't think it's...
That one has been rescinded. That one is rescinded.
Well, Mike, we haven't seen it.
Okay.
Just stop. We haven't seen it. I don't think it's appropriate to be talking about it, or whatever its contents are, without us having it be reviewed. I mean, none of us have seen what you're talking about. So to make comments and then not have our staff be able to advise us on what the report is, if it's an administrative draft, we shouldn't be talking about it right now, as far as I'm concerned.
I think the document he's referring to is an administrative draft. It's not approved or released.
It has been released tonight at 5 minutes to 6 o'clock.
That's not correct. It hasn't been released.
It's an administrative draft for staff review amongst the Interagency Transit Committee.
Yeah, let's hold off on this discussion. I mean, the rest of your report is fine, but I just don't, I'm going to cut this off right now. If it's an administrative draft and it hasn't been circulated to everyone, we don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, I said it was a pre-administrative, but that's neither here nor there.
Okay.
I will just say, without any further comments about the report, that we are not satisfied and that we think it'll take longer than a few weeks to review it and comment. We'll also reduce our comments and provide them to our board now that there's a draft for circulation when that's out, because we believe that our board should be involved since they do operate the transit system and they need to know this information.
Exactly what I'm talking about. I think your board definitely should be involved and understand the ramifications of what is being discussed before we discuss it now. So let's leave it at that. I do have a question, though, going back to the State Route 4 wagon trail project, which is what we were meant to be discussing here. I notice on page 202 of your memo of agenda item 04 that on the back it shows identification of tasks completed to date and deliverables submitted. I do not see a biological assessment of endangered species noted, but I do see it on this. So my question to you is this not as updated as this is? Because in this one here it says the environmental with geological and geoarchaeological, all the biological studies, including threatened and endangered species surveys, have been turned in. So this one here supersedes this one?
I believe that what the newsletter is the latest document that's been distributed, and that comes from our representative on the project.
So that's good news, because at one point, we had a lot of difficulties getting onto the property throughout that alignment to do the environmental studies. So as far as you're concerned, the endangered species and everything else has been completed for the project?
I haven't inspected the document.
Okay. All right, but as far as you know, as far as this is accurate, those reports have been done, and we're good to go. All right, very good. Any other questions or comments on the report for item 4A, the Wagon Trail Quarterly Report, or Highway 12 and 26, which was mentioned also? Anyone else? Any public? Yes, Gary.
I'm looking at the tables on what you were provided by staff on 4A. It says, the top of it says quarterly progress report from the Public Works Department. And as you know, I've been beating the drum for years about project delivery, and this last conversation you just had with Mr. Miller is indicative of one of the reasons, two of the reasons, why they can't seem to get these projects done. Piecemeal submittals, out-of-sync submittals. They're claiming that they don't have this done, and then they do have it done. And what I'm concerned about on this report is, you see in the table that says project funding, and over in the last column to the right says reversion date. Now, I'm sure the council remembers that last June, the previous 2 Junes, you had to enter into an agreement with San Joaquin COG in order to protect your CMAQ money. Otherwise, you're going to lose it. It was going to revert back. Fortunately, you have an executive director who's right on top of these things. And the reason you had to protect it is because Public Works failed to deliver on projects and encumber the money. And here we have, if you look at the second item down on reversion date, June 30th, 2014. Now, I'm assuming, otherwise I would hope you people would be a little bit upset, I'm assuming that no money reverted on that date or prior to that date of that $631,000. Is that correct?
That's certainly my assumption, and when you take a look at the project of, the newsletter, all of these reports have been, spent by using a lot of this money. So I don't know exactly to the penny where we're at with that, Gary, but I would be highly surprised if anything reverted.
You'd be highly surprised what?
If we had any amount of money that reverted on 6/30/2015.
Well, I hope not. $630,000 is a big chunk of dough.
Well, it says that would be going back, but I'm sure that money is safe and it's been working.
Well,
that's why I'm asking about this realignment letter and the
I've never heard so many excuses as I've heard in the past 3 years from the Public Works Department, why projects aren't proceeding or what the problem is, with, on the 1226 thing, was Caltrans changed the rules. They asked for a hazardous waste study, which they never asked for before. That's baloney. Well, I'm sure you know that, Mr. Chairman. Hazardous waste study is common on all projects. And here you got the intersection of 2 highways in this county, and you mean to say that nobody thought there was a gas station there? Come on.
Well,
I mean, they're taking us for idiots.
Well, it's, again, I think Councilmember Edson's comments beforehand were, we do have a new team, let's let them catch up. But, that's not to say that, everything is up to speed. I mean, I know that some things are dragging, and we're doing our best to make sure that they are catching up. But as far as money being reverted back, that's not happening. I see lots of people shaking their heads to the negative, so I guess I'm accurate. Go ahead, Mr. Miller.
No money has reverted back to Caltrans. We're continuing with that project, and I would like to jump over to the underground tank issue. Caltrans had a rough idea that there was one tank near the edge of the right-of-way initially. There are 3 tanks. They've been decommissioned. The decommission standards at the time they were decommissioned were simply to pump them out, and I believe they filled them with some type of material like sand. The issue early on with this is I worked at the city of Livermore when we hit an underground decommissioned tank, and it had a plume that extended about 4 or 5 miles near one of our monitoring wells in the city of Livermore. We didn't know what was under the road. We told Caltrans we don't know. We told PG&E we don't know because they have to take all the utilities and move them. We actually brought the underground tank removal specialist in through consultant services to make an assessment on the site, and based on their experience in doing sites all over California, they feel now that we can take those tanks out safely without creating further leaks. We went from an estimate originally submitted by one of the property owners for removal of those tanks from 12 to 18,000 to over 60,000, and that was submitted to Caltrans, and that's what we were given added to our project. Until you actually get that tank out of the ground, in a saddle, and on a truck, and out of there, you don't know what's underneath. You don't know if the clays have held fuel in place outside that tank for the last 30 years. And if that's the case and the soil is contaminated, all that soil has to be removed and either abated or stored in place till the vapors evaporate off of it. And you have to maintain security on the pile itself. So when we go into a project, as we discover things that aren't apparent, we continue to work with Caltrans. They continue to verify our information, and they continue to provide us additional funds.
All right, very good. All right, any other questions or comments on item 4A, the county report, wagon trail quarterly report? Okay, this is informational only as well, so I'm going to move on to item number 6, the city report. Mr. Hammond, you're up. If you have anything to report this evening. Good to have you in attendance. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, we are in the process of recruiting for our advisory committee. We've had one application so far, but we will be appointing some planning commissioners and some city council people, and hopefully we'll be getting that committee shored up here pretty quick. We just did, at the last council meeting, had a notice of completion for our Safe Routes to School project sidewalk from Mark Twain Elementary, so we got that project finished. And of course, everyone's seen our sidewalks on 49. Those got done, and we're currently working on our CMAQ project for Murphy's Grade Road. So other than that, unless anyone has any questions or any... I do want to comment, since I see this flyer right here on the thing. The Planning Commission is holding a public workshop for traffic issues regarding the Mark Twain Medical Center. COG staff, city staff today met with Caltrans, and we think we have a good place to start. And for the workshop, it's a public workshop from 5:30 to 8 at Bret Hart multi-purpose room. And so we have a consultant on board and have some maps and some to have people, and there'll be some public participation in this. Basically, the goal of the workshop is to get public input, and so that we can then make recommendations to the Planning Commission and City Council for the Mark Twain Medical Center. So we look forward to this, and we're working on it right now. So there are flyers here. I guess thanks, Melissa. Thanks, COG staff, for making those for me. So unless you have any questions on anything, I'd be happy to answer.
I have a question. I'm sorry, Dave, I didn't get a chance to talk about this last night at our council meeting, but on this recruitment for this citizens committee, Has there been any attempt to make contact with the institutional agencies that are supposed to participate, like the 2 school districts, the Board of Realtors?
Representatives from DAC, Angels Camp, we wanted to wait to see what the outcome has been so far, and now we will be hitting all of those agencies for a representative
Yeah,
here
because
coming
they
up
have a
next week.
designated
Right.
chair in this process.
Right, so we'll be contacting all of the 2 school districts, DAC, Angels Camp Business Association, and then some public members.
Board of Realtors, Visitors Bureau.
Yeah, Visitors Bureau, yeah, so they will be publicly contacted, or I will be contacting them here in the next week.
Well, for me personally, I have high expectations of the outcome of this, and I think that has to start with getting some real commitment from the stakeholders, the people affected by it, and we may have to go out and start knocking on doors.
Well, we're going to have to start, we are going to start knocking on doors, because we need to get this committee filled, so.
Okay, thank you.
On that committee then, what I see here is the bullet points of the various representatives. Is that the size of the advisory council?
The advisory, we were thinking about a number of between 15 and 16 people, so there's a couple council members, a couple planning commissioners, a representative from, and I think there were 5 at-large, community members at-large members as well. So the total number we were looking at was between 15 and 17 people. So, yeah, that's pretty
And
much.
you'd like to see somebody from the county board of supervisors?
Yeah, we would like to see a representative, and it's, it's a regional, it's a regional thing. The area that we're looking at is a regional area, and I think it's important that the county be on board and as part of it, so.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And just an update, though, the city did identify these interest groups to try to attract representatives from those areas. We did increase, I believe, the community at-large representation to 8, because also the city felt passionately about recruiting property owners, business owners, people that might not otherwise get involved in these types of processes, because it definitely will have a long-term impact on infrastructure improvements and plans as the city moves forward. So their goal is really to attract those who are interested and provide as much opportunity for the community at large to participate as well.
And the one application we had was a community member at large who is a major landowner. So that within that area. So that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's unfortunate that this region doesn't have a formal organization of the building community, the development community, like the BIA, business, what the BIA stand for?
Building Industry Association.
Building Industry Association down in the valley.
Yeah.
But there should be a place at the table for the development community, and so if any developer has an interest in participating, builder, I think we need to try to encourage them to come to the table.
Very good. Anything else from Mr. Hannum before he steps down? Thank you, Dave.
Thanks, Mr. Chair.
All right. Okay, item number 7 is the Caltrans report. Mr. Gedney, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. John Gedney, Caltrans District 10. I'd just like to follow up briefly with Dave's report on the 449 issue. I think we had yet another very vibrant meeting this afternoon, frank discussion, expressed our frustration collectively, tried to come up with some solutions, short-term and long-term. But I think the takeaway from it, I think we do have some good options, Dave, and I think I'd just like to point out, Dave had a very understated report for you. He's working his butt off to try to make this happen, and he's faced with a really seemingly insurmountable issue to deal with, and I just commend Dave for his patience. He shows his frustration once in a while, but he's very patient with it. But I think essentially we're all working together toward common, we have shared goals on this, and I think that's the important thing that I think we're going to come up with a solution to this. I'm sure of it. Amber, you think? I think we had a good meeting. Anyway,
She'll make sure that happens.
yeah, I'd like to just point out that we did get good news last week from the Federal Highway Administration. They approved our request to have 49 included in the National Highway System. So I really appreciate your support and help with getting that done. I think it won't show benefits immediately, but I think long term you'll see that it's going to work out. And your partners down south are certainly very thrilled with this in Mariposa, because initially, we weren't convinced that the section of 49 in Mariposa County met the criteria by itself, but in partnership with yourselves, Tuolumne and Amador, we made the case. So they're very pleased with your help to get that done. And then just finally, I'd just like to say how pleased we are to be participating in the San Andreas Cleanup Day this Saturday. I think that's, again, you have a lot of passion, a lot of community interest that's coming out, and you can see it in the meetings, you can see it in the email exchanges. So I look forward to that. I think it's going to be a really good event for the community.
Very good.
All right.
So with that,
Thank you,
Mr.
John.
Chairman, if you have any questions or concerns I could address, I'd be pleased to try to do so.
Yes, Jim.
Live in Mokel, thanks Caltrans for a nice overlay on 26.
All right, very good, very good. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's quite a stretch that goes all the way from almost Valley Springs, clear up to Highway 88 at the terminus of Highway 26, what I call the Steve Teal Highway. Yeah, so
30-mile project or something.
Yeah, it was. That was well done. Nice job. I was going to try to ask, where did that funding come from? I mean, is was that on the books for a long time? I mean, I've lived in West Point since 1975. I've never seen a better road than that goes to West Point. It's wonderful.
Right. That would have been funded through our district shop program.
Yeah, nice going.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, John.
So,
Thanks,
John,
for reminding me of that. That's well said.
I will be in touch with you on State Route 4. So the Board of Supervisors approved that as their priority for reclassification and designation. So we'll be preparing that package. I believe the resolution has already been submitted to the district on 4.
Great. Full steam ahead on that one.
Be our next
Let us
steps.
know how we can help you. Thank you.
All right,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Excuse me, John? Yes, sir. I travel quite a lot of different counties, a lot of different places. A good example is over the Altamont. And I know I poke at Caltrans quite a bit, but I got to tell you that our county is pretty darn good shape compared to a lot of places. I mean, you ever been over the Altamont? Yeah, I mean, you almost need a 4-wheel drive now, and so it's some pretty rough area over there. So, folks here are pretty fortunate to have the surface that they have. I know, we have our issues, but really, our roads are in pretty good shape.
Thank you, Supervisor Edson. Yes, and I think your action on the NHS for 49 will pay dividends in that regard, too.
All right.
Thank you.
John. Okay, let's move on then to item number 8. This is a resolution fiscal year 1501 approving the unmet transit needs determination and findings report with direction to submit to the Division of Mass Transportation. Ms. Collins, would you summarize your report and lead the discussion, please?
Good evening, Council. As the Council is aware, the identification of unmet transit needs determination and findings is an annual process, and it's required by the Transportation Development Act. In March, the COG held 2 public hearings at a COG meeting and a City Council meeting. In February, the COG adopted the definitions of unmet transit needs and reasonable to meet, by which the comments received through the public hearings and written communication are reviewed and evaluated. The SISTAC met in April to review the public comments and found one unmet transit need to be potentially reasonable to meet pending county further staff analysis of its feasibility, and that was providing service to the community first. We received about 45 signatures and 5 unmet needs forms for service to person. However, the signatures didn't provide much information, so county and transit staff then made follow-up phone calls to the individuals who provided signatures to determine the demand and better understand the need, and determined also the operational feasibility and other criteria in the reasonable to meet definition, and found that need to be reasonable to meet as an extension of Route 1. That analysis is found in attachment F of the report. And so based on these findings, staff recommends the council adopt by resolution the finding that there is an unmet transit need that is reasonable to meet, which includes service to person. And so after adoption of the findings, staff will submit the report to Caltrans. And this means the county will be required to meet the unmet need prior to claiming any LTF for non-transit use, which is streets. I'll answer any
Okay, very good, Amber, thank you. Questions or comments at this time? Yes, Jim?
Just one question. I certainly support the resolution, but just to bring me up to speed, it's my understanding for a year after this route is implemented, we don't consider it as part of the fare box ratio? Is that right?
Yeah, you don't need to
Worry about.
consider it a part of the fare box ratio for 2 years.
But you can use it,
Service.
you can use it though, right?
Yes, if it, yeah.
It helps, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So to build up the fare box, actually, you know, because you don't know what it's going to be like when you get down there, but I've been getting a lot of calls down there, so,
So it could help.
Yes.
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of folks down there that don't drive anymore.
And I think this actually came up in an earlier council meeting this year, but after 6 months, under our criteria, we reevaluate the service after it's implemented. So actually last year, that the extended service out to Rancho Calaveras will be evaluated at their next quarterly report that transit staff will submit.
So that was part of our TDA guidebook that we reevaluated after 6 months, but it was direction by the COG board that the information be provided specifically in the quarterly reports.
So District 5, same thing, you know, I know that it's, I go down there quite a bit, I see the need for it, and actually get a lot of calls from District 5 too.
Any other questions or comments on this item? What is the status of the makeup of the SISTAC? Is it fully staffed now, or is it fully positioned now? I mean, there was always a couple of positions that were not filled. Are we fully filled and up to the capacity this time?
Yeah, we have one open position, and that's a transit user who's a person with disabilities.
Okay, so we're still looking for that person. Okay, all right. Anything else on this item? Chair is open to a motion on item number 8.
So moved.
Councilmember Heminger moves the item.
Second?
Second by Councilmember Edson. I'll call for the vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? None noted. That passes on a 5-1 vote of the board with, or 6-1 vote of the board, I guess, with Councilmember Gomes in abstention. Okay, let's move on then to item number 9. And Ms. Raggio, will you summarize your report and lead the discussion, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Staff is recommending the council approve a minute order amending the wagon trail MOU to increase funding available to the county public works department for management of the project. To increase that funding to $1.5 million. The board of supervisors reviewed this amendment at their July 29th meeting, and it was approved. I just wanted to highlight a couple things in my staff report. The first one being, I've identified the funding that was on the wagon trail written report under the county item, and those public land highway buckets are extended. So we have no problem with those reversion dates. We're currently invoicing against the high priority project funding, and the RIP is currently the match, the $250,000. I would also like to update on the funding update. The county team has reported they are pushing through this project schedule. They're moving forward. They're getting close. We have 7 months remaining to invoice against the RIM funding. We went in May, I think, of 2013, and we asked for an extension of 20 months. The end of February will be the end of that extension, but I am talking to Caltrans, and there may be a possibility to apply for an extension of expenditure since we're already invoicing into that RIP funding. Currently, we've invoiced $77,000 into the RIP funding, so hopefully we'll be pretty close. The county project team has committed, if there is a reversion of that funding back to the state, they will backfill the match with RIM funds. The RIM Fund annual report is also attached to my staff report. The other discussion that I did hit was where this additional funding came from that is now available to the County Public Works Department for staff time. RBF Consulting was the first consultant on this wagon trail project, and when their contract expired in December of 2011, we estimated what their last invoice would be against the project, and I tried to be pretty conservative. So there was remaining or available funding in that carryover of $7,900. I've let the county project team know that that's available. You know, they've been invoicing some of their staff time. I identified what they've invoiced to date. So this funding available would help towards the county staff time. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I'd like to clarify. So the county has 1.4 million. You're suggesting 1.5, and that difference of almost $8,000, that's really the difference.
Yeah.
It's not new 1.5 monies.
Oh, no.
Okay.
So COG secured these funding sources.
Yes.
And after RBF, we identified 1.4 available to the county to manage the project.
Okay.
So I still invoice, I'm still the one processing the
claims and
invoices
stuff.
and reimbursing the county.
Okay.
So in the spreadsheet, after identifying carryover, because RBF didn't turn in any other invoices, this approximately $8,000 is available to add to the 1.4.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Anyone else?
Yeah, again, just to clarify what I thought I heard you say, in terms of this RIP funding, even if it's looking less and less optimistic that you're going to be able to save all those money, somebody has identified an alternate source that will be used to backfill?
Yeah, so in the annual RIM project report that was approved by the Board of Supervisors in November of 2013, on their RIM priority projects, wagon trail is identified, and then the funding for wagon trail is identified. So the project team always knew that they would need to use some RIM on this. We didn't know how quick. You can only invoice Caltrans once a month, so we've invoiced 5 months so far, and we utilized 77,000. So I think we'll have a good chunk of it by February.
Okay.
So.
And in terms of just general, when money does revert back, does it still stay within the Calaveras COG system, or does it revert back to the original funding source to be used in other districts and so forth?
It will go back to the state, and they will look for any,
Okay.
utilize it.
Okay.
We've already utilized our 20 months.
Okay. And the state doesn't recognize encumbrances against funding to save money. You actually have to produce invoices. You can't just encumber the funds under a contract to be paid at a later date. You have to actually
Submit your invoice, like the county pays out the invoices first, then I reimburse the county, so then I'm floating, and then Caltrans pays me back.
Okay. That's all I have.
Anyone else? I just had a couple questions, Melissa. So we have almost $8 million is the balance, I guess the ending balance for fiscal year 12 and 13 is $8 million in the RIM account? Is that what I see here on item C on page 204?
Is it Exhibit B?
Yeah, it's Exhibit A on the back side, so it says the Road Impact Mitigation Fee Program Annual Report. C says the beginning and ending balance of the account, so we've got $8 million in the RIM account.
The fund,
The fund.
so it's collecting from development fees.
Right, yeah. Well, I just hadn't seen that figure before. I mean, I was on the board years ago when we actually put the RIM in place, and I'm sad to say, looking at this number, that I didn't support that, but $8 million has been collected through a building boom. I still don't think it should have been put on commercial development, but we've been able to get $8 million to put to good projects in the county, so I guess all's well is all's well that ends well, is my point. Although I still think it should be looked at from the viewpoint of commercial development. It's very difficult to bring, new commerce into this county when you have to pay, to my mind, a very onerous fee to do that. So, but again, $8 million has been collected for projects here, so I guess that's a good thing. So it's just kind of an editorial comment, but it is what it is. All right.
I'd like to make a comment on that.
Yeah, go ahead.
I see the need for the rim, but I also think that, the county can probably set up some kind of an incentive program to be able to help those businesses come into the county. I'll give you, for instance, like Tracy, California, they set up a program where they charge out the rim fee to a company that comes in, and then they make a deal with them and say, hey, you put 100 people to work here, and you have so much revenue during the year, you get a rebate, a refund on it. And so, I'd love to see something like that. But just, we need, roads are expensive, and so we need the funding for them. But if we get a company that wants to come in and do business here, we certainly should be able to give them an incentive to come.
All right, very good. Chair is open to a motion unless there's any public comment on this item. Yes, Gary?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Gary Caldwell, Valley Springs. I want to draw your attention to the second page of that memo, the last paragraph on the memo, where it says, due to project schedule funding reversion date of February 2015, the county project management team is anticipating the remaining RIP funds to revert back to the state. We're back to non-delivery and funds reverting. And wanted to mention to Councilmember Combs that every phase of a project that's being funded either by federal or state funds, these are state funds, RIP monies are state funds, there's a due date. It's one of those, you either use it or lose it. And in this case, it appears from their own admission that they're going to lose it. And then the suggestion to substitute RIM money, which is local money, developer money, to substitute that for state money is crazy. That's heresy. Do that. You always want to use somebody else's, it's the OPM, other people's money. And in the case of RIP funds, that's the state's money. RIM money comes locally from developers here. And if I were a developer, I would say, I'm not happy about that. Deliver the project on time, and then you'll be able to retain your RIP money. And the other thing I want to point out is under the first paragraph in discussion, it talks about ineligible billing by the Public Works Department. They're billing for services for which they've obligated no money, or not enough money, let's put it that way, not enough money. So now they not only can't deliver the projects on time, they can't seem to bill properly for what they have spent in time. I mean, it's just chaos. And you need to keep an eye on these people because it's your money that filters through this body that goes to the Public Works Department. That RIP money came through here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your comments, Gary.
May I make a comment?
Sure.
I don't think there's anybody up here on this board that doesn't have strong feelings and disappointment about how perhaps money has been mismanaged in the past. And we're all committed to make it better. And we see the train starting to make a change in direction. But I don't think it serves any purpose to continually hammer the same thing over and over again. Everybody gets the message. Everybody's on the same page. We're all going in the same direction.
Then why hasn't it been solved?
It loses effectiveness after a while.
Why hasn't it been solved?
If I might discuss the potential solution, I think the situation that we have here is we have a report with identified reversion dates. Those reversion dates are coming. We've looked at the project schedule. The project schedule that's available sets us outside of those reversion dates. We're working with the Public Works Department to identify those solutions. When we became aware of the information, worst case scenario, the solution is the RIM fee. Melissa's working with Caltrans, our project manager, to see if we can get that extension request on the expenditures. If that's successful, we won't have the option of having to go through the county RIM program. If there's any more project delays or anything affects the project schedule, and that's really what happened is as we went through and navigated the environmental process, we encountered delays. And the county project management team is going to have to do the best they can with that schedule and those delays and those deadlines that we have before us. But I think what we're doing is recognizing the reports, recognizing the reversion dates and the available funding, and making it known that we are working to identify solutions. Right now, the solution is the request for extension. If that doesn't materialize in the next few months, the county has committed to backfill those funds with RIM. Right now, we have a conservative estimate at what that cost may be. If there's any other delays that the county anticipates, there could be further costs that we have not anticipated. So we'll continue to work with them to identify those solutions to those problems, but this is the information that we have available. We feel obligated to inform the council because they too are aware of those reversion dates, and we don't want to make that information known before it's too late.
Okay.
Okay, you know, I just wanted to follow up on Mr. Combs' comment,
Well,
if I could,
this
please.
isn't a debate here. You had your comment, he's responded. I'll give you one more comment, and that's it.
Thank you. I had a boss one time who said, "Don't bring me problems, bring me solutions." I did that about 8 or 10 months ago to Lori Norton, the CEO for the county. I said, "You know, you're way, way behind. Public Works are way behind on project delivery. They're potentially going to lose money. The county's going to lose money. They're not delivering projects as they should. They need some help." And I went to CSAC, and I don't know if you know what CSAC is, but the County Supervisors Association in Sacramento, and I went and asked if they had anyone, or knew of anyone, not on their staff, but knew of anyone who could manage projects, who had experience in managing projects, maybe a retired public works director, county engineer, whatever, if they knew of anyone that could help out Calaveras County. And they said, well, we have heard good things about Wilden and Associates, which is out of Sacramento, and they do consulting work and they do project management. So I went to Lori and I said, you know what I think you should do is to take advantage of Wildan, give them project management of all of your projects, and let them manage the projects, because you've hired Mr. Miller now, who's limited to how much time he can spend because he's collecting the PERS check. So he's limited how much time he can spend. The projects couldn't get done 5 days a week with Mr. Garcia here, 5 days a week. How's he going to do it at 2 or 3 days a week? My suggestion was, let Mr. Miller manage solid waste, transit, and whatever other miscellaneous maintenance of county roads. Bring on a project manager whose job it is to deliver projects, enter into an agreement that says you don't get paid until the project is delivered. And besides that, that firm or that person's salary would be paid with project funds, not county funds. They'd be paid with either state or federal funds. That could happen. I don't see any movement on the part of the county to try and help itself. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Gary. All right. Yeah, this is, this was, we had a motion and a second? That's what I'm asking. No, I
No.
did not call for a motion and a second? Okay, so item number 9 is a minute order approving the Wagon Trail Memorandum of Understanding, amendment number 1 between Calaveras Council of Governments and the County Public Works Department. The chair is open to a motion on this item.
So moved.
Councilmember Ponte moves the item.
I'll second.
Councilmember Colvin seconds the item. I'll call for the vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? None noted. That passes on a 6-1 vote of the board with Councilmember Gomes absent. Okay, we will move on now to item number 10, staff reports, and I'll begin with you, Melissa.
Perfect. I just wanted to announce that we will be rescheduling the Technical Advisory Committee to August 25th due to CTC schedule. Also, I wanted to let the council know that at that meeting, we'll be following up with our city and public works staff, continuing on our strategic planning effort. We had Matt Boyer here with you some months ago. He'll be following up with the Technical Advisory Committee, at which point we'd like to then sit with the executive management and look at your direction for incorporating sort of economic development into the functions of the COG board. It's interesting because we've also been contacted by the Calaveras County Economic Development Corporation. They're working with Larry Cope from Tuolumne County. He's been providing them some technical support, and we're too looking at how to incorporate maybe into our overall work program, how we might better serve as maybe a data service center for the city, county, and then the various different economic development groups who are working throughout the county. So there's a lot of opportunity for shared information, and we might be able to provide that pretty quickly and easily to them. So I think that those are just some things we're working on. We're looking, the direction also came from this board to explore the opportunities, or at least have a discussion about the work that's going on right now with self-help communities. So we've reached out to some of our other rural counterparts. They're working with an organization and doing workshops with their boards on what it takes and what they should know about the potential and what the opportunity may be. So we're looking for the opportunity to bring that back as a workshop to have with the COG board so that we can explore the potential for local funding solutions. So that's just a little bit about what we've been working on in the summer, and I'll turn it over to my staff if they have any information to add or if there's any questions from the board.
Okay, questions or comments? Melissa? Amber? Carly? Jim? All right, then we'll move on then to council member reports, and I'll begin with Mr. Heminger this evening.
I have nothing supplemental to report, thank you.
Okay, Debbie?
In regards to the Angels Camp Advisory Council, I'll take this information to the board to see if they'd like to appoint perhaps Cliff or myself to that.
Sounds like fun.
We might have to dicker for it.
Isn't that exciting?
Cliff?
I have nothing to report, thank you.
All right. Blaine?
Nothing to report.
All right, Wes?
No, nothing either.
And I have nothing.
We welcome a member of the board to there.
There you go.
Thank you.
I have nothing to report either, other than to just kind of echo the new road into West Point and McCollum Hill, the best road in the county right now. Thank you, John. Yeah. All right, this meeting is adjourned to the next scheduled meeting with the COG, September 3rd, same time, same place. See you next month.